Welcome, everyone. It's a joy to have you here.
Barb Church is going to do the land acknowledgement.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Barb Church. My indigenous name is Shwaya from the Stalo Nation. We acknowledge that we are on the stolen land of the Puyallup tribe who has lived here since time immemorial. We acknowledge that the Puyallup and other Native nations have been targets of invasion, occupation, and displacement, leading to centuries of trauma. We acknowledge the sovereign rights of the Puyallup and other tribal nations, and we stand in solidarity with their efforts to have these rights honored. We acknowledge that in this moment of increased anti-Native sentiment and racism directed toward Black, brown, and immigrant communities, it is imperative that we find common ground to strengthen a coalition necessary for the protection of our culture, our treaty rights, and ultimately for the protection of our very lives. Thank you.
Before we start the program, we're going to have some announcements in the panel, and before the panel starts. I want to make sure we express our gratitude to the Tacoma Unitarian Universalist congregation for that we can use this space, and Dave Hackett, a member of the congregation who helps fund our use of this space also. So we're grateful to Dave, and we're grateful to Dan Villa, our videographer, and to all our volunteers. We have a lot of volunteers who work hard to make this happen, and Vicky's going to go on.
So to start the announcements, we have Barb, who's going to speak about No Kings.
Well, I tell you, I am so excited about our No Kings rally and protest. It's going to be on Saturday, September 28th from 1 to... Oh. I was thinking of another event I did. Yeah, March 28th. I hope you'll delete that from the video. March 28th, Saturday from 1 to 3. We have so many different cultures and ethnicities represented as speakers there, honoring the Puyallup Nation, the Warm Springs Nation, just so many different cultures, and every voice is important, and we look forward to all you guys being there and realizing that your voice is important too. Thank you.
And now we have a speaker for PSARA. Oh, there you are, Richard Burton.
My name is Richard Burton, and I'm here from PSARA, Puget Sound Advocates for Retirement Action. Some of you may know about PSARA. Our name kind of suggests that we're focused primarily on stuff that's of concern for people who are retired or who are thinking about being retired, which is pretty much everybody. So our big concerns are around attacks to Social Security and Medicare. But that's not all we're doing. We're also working on environmental justice, on racial justice. We have a lot of work that we do in Olympia, advocating for bills and legislation there. If you're interested in being a part of PSARA, that would be great. I have little pamphlets here you can read about. We have a website, PSARA.org, where you can learn more information. We're a multi-generational organization and very proud and honored to be able to be a part of this event tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Richard. And next we have Zev Cook from Tacoma for All and Safe Homes for All, the Safe Homes for All initiative.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zev Cook, and I'm on staff for Tacoma for All as the field director for the Safe Homes for All ballot initiative this year. Can you raise your hand if you're familiar with this campaign? Okay, we've got a bit of a mix. Well, here's the big problem that we're trying to solve. We believe that everyone, no matter their situation, deserves a safe home here in Tacoma. Stability and affordability for all. Right now, many tenants across our city are facing serious issues with illegal rent increases, lack of repairs, mold in units, issues that have been especially driven by some of the massive corporations that continue to buy up housing across our city. Our solution to that is to say we need real enforcement to protect tenants and make sure that everyone has to follow the law when it comes to providing safe homes. That means real accountability through fees on landlords, especially those who are repeat offenders who continue to violate the protections of their tenants. It also means creating protections for the right to organize a tenant union, the right to discuss conditions with your neighbors without fear of retaliation. Now this year, like with our last campaign for the Tenant Bill of Rights, we are going up against the massive power of the landlord lobby. They have massive resources, not just to fight this initiative, but to continue to exploit tenants if this doesn't pass. That's really the core of the issue that we're seeing now. We passed the Tenant Bill of Rights with Indivisible's help back in 2023, but in 2 years since the Landlord Fairness Code was passed, since the Rental Housing Code was updated, the city has issued one fine in those 2 years to a landlord for breaking the law. Do you think that there's been only one instance of landlords violating the rights of their tenants in this city over 2 years? I think not. Now, to fix that, our initiative will do a lot to advance accountability and make sure that we're protecting tenants. But to take on the power of the landlord lobby, who are going to send out tons of mailers, they're going to fill up your mailbox, they're going to put ads all over TV, spreading lies, telling you this is going to raise your taxes when there's no tax increase in here. They're going to tell you that this is going to put small landlords under, when this is really about broad accountability, and landlords who follow the law and treat their tenants the way they should will see no real impact from this. And what we need to be able to win in November is all of your support. Now, we are so proud to have the endorsement of Indivisible Tacoma, the endorsement of Tacoma DSA, Tacoma for All, UFCW Local 367, Common Good Tacoma, who have made up the foundations of our Community Faith Labor Coalition that will help us win at the ballot. But we also need to do the work of first getting this on the ballot and making sure that we collect 9,000 signatures to do just that we educate our base and make sure that they're prepared for the lies that the landlord lobby is going to come out with, and that we continue to expand our base and recruit new volunteers to help us win. And today, I'm asking all of you, if you can volunteer, to come out, knock doors with us, make calls with us, volunteer to help us take on the landlord lobby and fight for safe, affordable housing as a human right for all of us here in Tacoma. So folks, we have some paper signups that we're going to ask folks to fill out. So if you are in a position where you're ready to volunteer and sign up for a shift, can you just raise your hand and keep it raised for anyone who's ready? We've got a couple. That's awesome. In the back too. Thank you all so much. That's going to be a huge help. Our other just ask is to make sure that you've signed the initiative. This is for people who are registered voters within the city limits of Tacoma proper. So if you're in Midland or Parkland, this is unfortunately not for you, but if once we win it here, we win at the county level, we win at the state level, right? So thank you all so much for having me, and thank you for your support. Let's win this thing, and I'll pass petitions forward to back.
Thank you, Zev. And now we have Ellen to speak about Legislative Action Team and also voter registration engagement.
We're just having a couple of brief announcements about our teams so that many people in this room are aware of our teams and are already members of them. Legislative Action meets once a month and is active with lobbying and meeting with elected officials. And the way to join those meetings, the monthly meetings, is to watch for the announcements and then send a message to the chapter email to get the meeting link. We just finished the legislative session, and so there was a lot of work being done with the bills and trying to get good bills passed in Olympia. For the voter registration and engagement team, we last year did we tabled at over 20 events around Pierce County, and we're really active in that kind of outreach, talking to people at festivals and events. And it's really effective and a fun way if you want to volunteer with that. We have an online calendar where you can sign up. A lot of this shows up in our newsletter and upcoming events on the website. The next thing is Lee with fundraising.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lee Kellett. I am the team lead for Indivisible's brand new fundraising team. Many of you might know that we're an all-volunteer organization. We ran on a shoestring for a long time. We still do. But as more demand comes up, more people are joining, more people want us to do more rallies and more activities. These wonderful meetings, they all have some costs associated with it, as do our social media presence. The rallies have a lot of costs, so we decided we really needed to organize a team to start working and focusing on fundraising activities. So I'm just here to tell you that that exists now. We're asking, I know it's a tough time for everybody, costs are up, everything's really tough, but we certainly can appreciate any kind of donation that anybody can manage whenever it works for you. We're gonna have a lot more signage at the No Kings rally in the various booths that we have, giving you opportunities to use our QR code, which is here. This is gonna be right when you walk out on the left where the buttons are and whatever that you can take as well. You can scan this and you can donate directly online. If you can help us at all, anything, $5, $10, anything helps, and it adds up, and then we're all contributing to all this wonderful activity that Indivisible does. So appreciate your time, and we hope you can help us out.
Just to be clear that this QR code is for supporting our
Kings, yeah.
actions and No Kings, and we will be passing baskets for the general operations of IT too. So we're doing a couple of things. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So if you have cash, great, but if you don't, you can still donate.
So now we have Terry to speak about the National Action Team.
So I don't know about you all, or how you get your news, but in the mornings I wake up and I read Heather Cox Richardson, and I see a lot of nods on that one. And I go to the gym, and then I come back and I get some of my news from Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert, because I need it laced with a little sarcasm, If I don't have that, and if I can't laugh at some of it, but the thing is that every day there's some new thing that I just find totally dizzying. And it feels like, every few days there's some smack in the face thing, something's going on nationally. And so Indivisible has a national action team. And the idea is to be more responsive. I think generally the idea is to be more responsive to things that go on and to be able to react, to put on rallies and sign waving and demonstrations, and people are calling for this. And what's new with National Action Team just recently is we now have some protocols so that in conjunction with the Indivisible steering team, we can quickly make decisions about what we respond to and do it fast. And so we're making some progress with this. If you'd like to be involved with National Action Team, there is the address is natindivisible@gmail.com. So and I think it's on one of the sheets that we passed out at the door out front. So anyway, thank you.
And now we have Fen, who will speak about the Buycott.
How we doing? No. How are we doing? That's more like it. The reason I want you to be excited is because everybody knows what a boycott is, right? Somebody does something we don't like, we don't want to give them money. We found a way to turn that around. The Buycott is where we find people who know what's up. They're on the right side of things, our side of things. And they participated in the January 30th general strike, saying, we don't want this. We're going to show everybody who we are. This is how we're going to do it. Some places shut down. Some places made donations to immigrant rights organizations. Whatever they did, they made it public on social media. So we put together a list, and there is a sheet, looks just like this. It says Buycott Tacoma on it. There is a list of all the businesses, and what we want you to do is grab one of these sheets, fold it in half like this. You got instructions on one side. There's a fun contest. I'll let you read about that. Basically, you go to any of these businesses on this list and you spend some money. Take a picture of your receipt, send it in, you have a chance to win a prize. But the real magic here is that when you are supporting these businesses, you are supporting their endeavors to possibly participate inevitably again. So, When you want to buy a book, you go to Grit City Books first. If you want to go out for tacos, you go to Red Star Tacos first. Everybody wants some of these things. Think of these businesses first because they have their hearts in the right place, they put their money where their mouth is, and they deserve our support and community from all of us. Do I have your pledge? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fen. And now we have Sharon, who will talk about de-escalation training.
Hey, everybody. Most of you got your little half sheets today, and the top thing of events is coming up on March 21st is a de-escalation training. Now, de-escalation is a chance for you to learn about ways to use verbal and nonverbal communication skills to help calm someone who might be a little upset, to help prevent violence or things from escalating in a direction that we don't want them to happen. Now, most of you would think, okay, that means a training that I need to take if I'm going to go help be one of the safety people at a rally. Well, yes, that is the training that you need to take if you're going to do that. But this training is also very, very helpful in all life settings. It teaches you a little bit of just about how to help people who've gotten a little overwrought. And right now, there are people who are a little overwrought sometimes. And so it's also going to give you peace of mind if you do go to any of these large gatherings of people, that you have the skills to make sure you're safe and help others be safe around you. So it's coming up here on March 21st. That's this Saturday, 3 to 5 o'clock. And you'll see there it's at 1314 South L Street in Tacoma. I'm going to go. It's my first full-fledged training, so I'm excited to learn about all these little skills, and I hope to see as many as you want to, as many of you as can come. And some of you may then choose to volunteer for the No Kings coming up or for something in the future. Thanks.
And so I'm going to speak about the election team. Julie Angievsky and I are co-leaders on the election team. We do a lot of research on the candidates and initiatives, and we endorse or recommend candidates who have our values. It's one thing to help people with food and housing and shelter, but one of the things we like to do is to try to elect people who strengthen policies about food, food and poverty and things that people are struggling about. So we have the election team that meets about once every 2 weeks, sometimes more frequently, and we'd love to have you join us. It's the information is on our half sheet that's out there, I think, on the table with who you can contact if you'd like to join the election team, and we'd love to have you. And next we have Rebecca Stith, who will talk about charter review.
Hi, you see a bunch of empty chairs behind me for commissioners who are on the Pierce County Charter Review. Can those commissioners who have made it here, can you please come up to the stage and take your seat? Otherwise, I'll be pointing to empty chairs to answer questions, and that won't work out very well. And make sure you sit in your assigned seat. So, just to confuse things for me, and hopefully not for them, if a couple of the commissioners had other meetings they had to go to, so it could be a few people are going to come in a little bit late. If they're not able to make it because something held them up, we'll probably just move forward to the next commissioner. If people come, then we'll go back to what we were going to plan, and I'll tell you what's going on now. And thank you, all of you, for taking your seats. So first I want to welcome you all to come. The main event tonight is they're going to talk about the work that's going on with the Pierce County Charter Review. And you can see all the names of the people who are going to be here, and they'll introduce themselves in a few minutes. Before that happens, I want to explain to you what the charter review process is very briefly. How many of you have heard about the charter and have some understanding of it? So that's most of you, which is great. My work is done. But just in case, people often liken it to a local constitution, like the city of Tacoma has one and did a charter review a couple of years ago. So a charter for the county, like as it happens everywhere, provides a framework, rules, and guidance on the vital work of governing here in Pierce County. But it needs periodic refining and updating. So every 10 years under that charter, we elect, as happened in 2025, 3 people from each of the 7 county districts. So that's 21 people appointed to the commission. And we have several of them here tonight and hopefully more of them soon. So they're considering possible amendments to the charter right now. So they're examining those, they're listening to public comment, they're meeting every week, and I'll give you a little bit more information about that. And they're moving some proposed amendments forward in their discussions. And in June, they will have been meeting 6 months, and at that point, they will send to the county elections to put whatever amendments they're recommending on the ballot for Pierce County voters, registered voters, to accept or reject, and we'll see which ones get passed and which ones don't. All the meetings are open to the public. You can attend in person to observe. You can make public comment in person if you like. I'm not going to give you the website, but if you Google Pierce County Charter Review, you will find the website. And it shows you links for remote attendance, submitting written comment, receiving updates, and much more, and I urge you to do that. So let me just tell you a little bit about what's going to happen now. We're going to turn this over to our speakers. Once they finish, we're going to have time for some audience Q&A, and I'll mention a few ground rules at that time. So we're going to start with, and thankfully she was able to get here. We're going to start, just hold that thought, with Commissioner Lisa Boyd. And the Indivisible Tacoma actually submitted questions to these commissioners ahead of time. So each one is going to read the question that that person got and then give their response. And at the conclusion of that, we're then going to turn it over to audience questions and answers. So without any more talking by me, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Lisa Boyd, who will introduce herself, recite her question, and give you her response. They each have about 5 minutes to give their response.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I am Lisa Boyd, and I am part of District 6. I want to say thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this panel tonight. It's an important conversation, and really nice that we're able to share with you what's the most important parts. So my question is, what key parts of governance does the Pierce County Charter cover? What is the mission of the Charter Review Commission? And so I wrote down a few notes to talk about the key parts of governance. Structure of government is the executive and council roles, shared authority, that's part of it. So an example would be the balance of decision-making and oversight. Elected offices, sheriff, which is really talked about a lot right now. Assessor, treasurer, prosecutor. So an example for that would be the sheriff discussion that is highly debated right now. Elected versus appointed, and public trust. Those are the main key points. Legislative processes, how ordinances are created and implemented, and an example would be ordinances guiding public safety and land use. Accountability, oversight, transparency, ethics. Those are kinds of things that we talk about. An example would be law enforcement accountability discussions. Citizen participation, initiatives, referendums, public voice. Example, public comments, shaping commissioners' conversations. Transition to mission. This is why the Charter Review Commission exists, to evaluate how these systems are working, to look at the different parts of the charter in real time and make recommendations for changes. Changes happen every 10 years, as she was sharing, and we are seeing the needs. And it's about long-range goals for the next 10 years, because this opportunity only comes around 10 years. And it is really important to think about not just people that are in positions now, but really thinking about in the long term what's going to be best for our communities as a whole. I'm moving to number 2.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenn Marie Strickling. I am the District 5 Position 3 Charter Review Commission person. But I'm also running for office for state leg in the 25th LD. So my question was, what lessons were learned from prior charter review cycles or ballot outcomes, and how are commissioners collaborating with each other to craft good proposals? One lesson from the past charter review cycle is simple. Voters support changes when they clearly improve the everyday lives of working people. Who is our government working for right now? I think a lot of people would say probably not them, depending on their situation, right? Like, I think the reality is that people are getting squeezed, rent is way up, groceries cost more, wages are not keeping up, and why it doesn't add up. I think one solution that we could probably, that me and Billy Hetherington have been working on, is trying to get project labor agreements into the charter a little bit so that people can have, when we're building and we're using public money, so when we're using taxpayer dollars to build things, so for our schools, for our roads, things like that, we can guarantee that those are going to go to workers. They're going to be paid a thriving wage, which in return puts money back into the economy and local spaces, right? Like local businesses, local restaurants. It's how you kind of build out a middle-out economy, right? So public money should make life better. So one amendment, so that's how me and Billy have been working on. It's Amendment C12. Let's see, what else do I have on this? So I think it's important also to talk to the folks in the Pierce County Labor and the South Sound building trades, because these people are the ones that know how to build our infrastructure. So our roads, our schools, and spaces that are highly influence how we live our lives. Here's the thing, they know how to fight for thriving wages. So we've done a lot of outreach with them, working with them on crafting the right wording and the right ability to get that one passed. And I've talked to a lot of fellow commissioners here to try to get support and make sure that that goes through. The other thing so the project labor, so it's kind of union speak, so I'll break it down. It means better wages, safer jobs, and apprenticeships so that people can get those things done. So we shouldn't be subsidizing jobs that can't support the life of community that they serve. The next thing that we're really focused on is accountability. People don't trust the system. We've seen real concerns, unequal rules, lack of transparency, and weak accountability. And let me flip this over. People notice and that trust breaks. So no one is above the rules, not even the sheriff who's in the back of the room again. This is part of the frustration too, because even in charter review, we're seeing gaps. So we've got a commissioner with a direct relationship to a sitting council member, not clearly disclosing that to the public, not under voter materials, not openly acknowledging in process. And that also matters because this commission is shaping pay, structure, and roles tied to the council. So that is influence over the system, and it's not personal. It's about standards. Transparency isn't optional. So I proposed an amendment, C19, an independent and conflict of interest proposal. It'll establish clear disclosure and recusal standards when amendments are in effect. Elected offices held by commissioners' immediate family members, they'll still be able to be on the commission, but there'll be guardrails in place for institutional independence and transparency. So it's not about personalities, it's about the system. Do we have real oversight? Do we have real accountability? Hope is a nice feeling, but it's not a system. Government should work for people. Public money, real jobs, power and accountable should be accountable every single time. Do that and trust can come back. If the system can't hold power accountable, then the system needs to change. So I think that's all I've got on how, I hope that was, I don't know if it was something.
Hello, folks. My name is Devon Rydel Kelly. I am District 4, Position 2. My colleagues and I just came from a listening session at Furcrest. We apologize for being a little on the late side. And Jake Hunter, to my left, and I were asked to speak about some of the law enforcement reforms that were just passed through the Senate, specifically SB 5974, and how that relates to the discussion that we're having in the county about moving to an appointed sheriff system. I don't have anything prepared, but I have given this a lot of thought. So I'm just going to share for a little bit on it and a little bit about how it relates to accountability, democracy, and really building a better future for all residents of our community throughout Pierce County. So first off, I'm a firm supporter of SB 5974. I think it's great. It's long overdue. I think that we need a host of accountability mechanisms for folks in law enforcement leadership, whether they're sheriffs or police chiefs, specifically around if they violated the law, if their staff have violated the law, if they have indiscretions, and especially if they are mistreating specific members of the community. So I think that it's a valuable addition. I think sometimes it takes a political crisis moment to pass common sense legislation. I think that's what we're seeing at the state level, and I think it's to a degree what we're seeing here in the charter. So first and foremost, I think that there's this weird idea in certain segments of American society that law enforcement should be held to a lower accountability standard than other people. And I think both, first and foremost, that police officers should be held to a higher degree of accountability. And I actually think cops shouldn't kill guilty people either, on top of not killing innocent people. That's just my take. I'm not speaking for Commissioner Hunter or anybody else here. So I think that when it comes to the appointed sheriff discussion, this is by far the most heated thing we're hearing on all sides of the issue, whether it's people that really want an appointed sheriff, whether people that really want to keep an elected sheriff because they like elected sheriffs, whether it's people that want to keep an elected sheriff because they like Keith Swank, or whether it's people that want us to shut up and move on to other issues. It is the single most polarizing big thing. And one thing that I've learned throughout the whole process, that it's really, really important when something like this comes up to give it to the people to let them make that decision. If we're about doing democracy, if we're about this 10-year process where we revisit the important questions in front of us every so often, and everyone is talking about it, everyone is curious about it, everyone has a strong position, we should let them decide. I'm sure this has been said by other folks before we came in, but the Charter Commission makes recommendations. We do not pass laws. We are not dictating what happens to the future of our county. We are making recommendations to the voters. And what is better than making a recommendation, allowing people to decide, and people deciding how they want? So I am fully in support of passing an appointed sheriff personally, and for letting the voters decide, because that's how we do democracy. I think there's also been a tendency among some of the folks on the Charter Review Commission and some folks in the community to kind of equivocate between elected sheriffs and democracy writ large. And I think it's just really important to note, and we had some great professors join us a few weeks ago, that when we talk about elected sheriffs, a lot of stuff gets obfuscated. They're uncompetitive races. There's often no competitor at all, or competitors are groomed or threatened because they're coming from the same deputy pool in the same sheriff department that an existing sheriff is in. They're low turnout elections, and it's one of the reasons we end up getting 92% of sheriffs are white and 98% are men. And I'm not making a value judgment on that. I'm just saying if we want law enforcement that is reflective of our community, reflective of our increasingly diverse tapestry of residents of all backgrounds. And, I don't want to personalize it on one person, but that is not going to be oppressing or violating the rights of folks that are moving here specifically because they see Washington as a more open, accepting place than where they're coming from, whether they're queer or trans or immigrants or a young couple that, wants to have control over their own birth plans. We should be a welcoming place, and we should be holding our officers of the law to a higher standard than we are currently. And I think appointment is one small step to doing that. I also support creating an ombuds office. I support all different methods of accountability. But I want to reiterate, there's so many other important issues that we're facing here on the charter, and we shouldn't let that debate take all that out of the room. And I'm excited to hear what everyone else here has to say and what the audience has to say too. Thank you.
My name is Jake Hunter, District 4. What did I run for? 3? Position 3. I actually don't have a whole lot more to add than what Devon just said. I think he did a great job sort of encapsulating how important this issue is, and also that we don't need to give it all of the oxygen in the room. We're looking at a lot of things on the commission that deserve attention as well. the thing on the question that I've been swirling around with was that how will the state bill that was passed affect what we're doing on the commission? I don't think it has to affect what we're doing much at all. This law's likely going to face litigation and may not even be held legal once it faces that litigation. And so I think the commission should just proceed as planned with, or rather, I am going to proceed as planned with my amendment. And what else was I going to add? I don't need to take up all 5 minutes, do I? Okay. One thing that I've heard a lot from public comment is that my amendment comes from a place of hate, that like I hate somebody, but I would posit to those people that if accountability feels like hate, then maybe we should practice a little introspection. It's like, why would being held accountable feel so terrible? And what else? Give me a second. Oh, and like the cost of not being able to fire, if you will, a financial liability when a sheriff publicly states that they will violate labor laws for protected classes and then refuse to retract it. That is a lawsuit waiting to happen. And I would like to ask the county how many lawsuits for preventable litigation is acceptable, for our elected folks, for the executives of our government. And I think that's all I have, so I will yield my time.
Thank you. As somebody that has to drive to Bellingham after that, you're right, we don't have to do all the time, right? My name's Justin Leighton. I am District 7 Commissioner. District 7 is everything north of 6th Avenue in Tacoma and everything on the other side of the Narrows Bridge. So the mighty 7th District, I would be remiss to not acknowledge our County Council member for District 7, Robin Denson, in the room. And of course and then of course my fellow District 7 Commissioner sitting next to her, Brenda Likens. So District 7 was the Leighton Likens landslide that was fantastic for our elections. So it hasn't really been said, but I just want to point out a couple things. We meet every Monday at 6 o'clock. Welcome to come and join us. The Pierce County Annex, if you're not familiar with it, it's behind the Tacoma Costco. And if you can do that, we are on Zoom every time. So if you want to fill your Monday, get some popcorn, and watch our 4.5-hour show. It's been going about 4.5 hours, and go from there. More recesses than I thought we would have. So my experience in this is, I just want to do a little bit, is I was on the City of Tacoma Charter Review Commission in 2015. I've been a longtime community advocate and activist in the Tacoma area and the Hilltop, the Transportation Commission, for many years, chair of Central Neighborhood Council, and so on and so forth. My day job, I work closely with government. I'm the executive director of the Washington State Transit Association, hence why I'm going to Bellingham tonight for a meeting tomorrow morning. But I really believe in good government, and I really believe that we can have policies that drive an agenda to meet the values, and I believe that government can be there, and we learned quite a bit during the pandemic that it was the government, whether you were a federal, state, or local, that was there at the end of the day as a safety net for many things. And I work in public transportation, and I'll just use an example in this. It was public transit that never shut down. It was Lyft and Uber, who everybody thought was going to be the next big wave, are the ones that didn't go and be the safety net that they thought. So that's why my kind of belief about good government working forward. And I've always worked in government my entire professional life as we move forward. So my question, which I don't know if it was thoughtful or not, but I relate to this because I was also on the redistricting committee for Pierce County in the last cycle. So since each county council member now represents a very large number, it's about 137,000, by the way, I did the math. What is the sentiment of the commission about expanding the number of members serving on the Pierce County Council? If this is recommended, when and how would redistricting take place? I'm not going to speak for my fellow commissioners. We haven't talked about it as a group, but I can just come from a place of my experience on the redistricting committee and kind of going forward. I think that there's been some chatter about that process, if we should have more. I hear a lot of comparisons. Well, King County, has 9 and they're over 1 million. And I keep hearing this somehow magic number that we're almost getting close to 1 million people in Pierce County, and somehow that's the trigger for it. So for me, I think that it's a bit of a difference. Like, what is the value added? What are we having our county council members working on? Is the expense of expanded staff and expanded legal counsel, even office space, is that expense worth it over maybe not doing a program that is needed for seniors, people with disabilities, food bank assistance? That's the value place I come at. It has nothing to do with whether or not I believe that there shouldn't be more representation or not. It's what do we give up as a community by having this expense moving forward? And so that's kind of the value place that I look at from there. And then I'll kind of get to the proposal that we have before us, and then I want to talk about a little bit. We have a proposal before us that would divide every census, the county, by 80,000 people. And currently, that would be 11 council members. And I'll say that is a little bit too much, because where does it end, right? We're going to continue to grow. Then it's 15, then it's 17. And no offense to my fellow commissioners, we're learning as a commission of 21, death by committee is a real thing. Okay, so from there. And then I'll just say, I know I have the stop sign, but I'll just say, from a political point of view, I'm a political operative. I was the Democrat that represented the Democrats of the two. We will have to make sure that we work really hard in defending more county council seats to ensure a progressive agenda in Pierce County. And we have to make sure that politically, we would be ready to do that and step up as a county, step up as donors, step up as candidates. Do we have good candidates to run in these districts? These are all really important questions that we also need to ask beyond, we just want more representation. So that's just kind of the philosophy I have, and I'll turn it over to my counterpart, Troy.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Troy Serad. I'm the District 5 representative, or at least one of 3 of them. District 5 of Pierce County goes from northeast Tacoma, Browns Point, Dash Point, down through Five Heights in the Port of Tacoma, all the way down to 152nd Street. The westerly line is Pacific Avenue. Generally, the easterly line, we don't really talk about it as much because it's a bit crazy. I am an Air Force veteran, and until I stepped aside for the Pierce County Charter Review Commission role, I was the county's lead engineer for its Safe Routes to School program. So I consider myself a transportation, transit, and development professional.
We have a lot to talk about.
We have a lot to talk about. And I'm also the City of Tacoma District 4 Planning Commissioner. So I want to real quickly say thank you so much for the Indivisible Tacoma endorsement and for those who campaigned on my behalf. It means the world to me. My question that was provided is the following. What additional areas of charter change are needed to best serve democracy, justice, and public safety in Pierce County, including additional areas of concern about the sheriff not covered by the new law? Well, that's quite a question, but I really appreciate it. With regards to public safety and justice, there's been a lot of focus on the sheriff appointment matter. It's my personal view that that matter is settled. I think all elected offices of Pierce County is a settled matter. And furthermore, I do think, ultimately I can't divine to know what the public will decide, but I do believe a sheriff appointment ballot question will be rejected by the voters. So I think it's important to consider alternative options that expand accountability for Pierce County elected figures. And I'll go through a couple of them. And some of these have been introduced to the commission, and therefore it's with the body now, and it's not my proposal per se, or they're going to be proposed soon, and then who knows what will happen afterwards. But I have proposed to the body an amendment that works on our existing vacancies provisions within the Pierce County Charter, which right now, if you are charged with a felony, you get a paid suspension. And of course, the charter makes no mention of what happens during that suspension. It's kind of a gray area. And if you are convicted of that felony, you are removed from office. I want to expand that to include gross misdemeanors related to misconduct of your public office, so that if you are misappropriating funds, lying to the public, concealing records, you are similarly given a paid suspension. And if you're convicted of those types of crimes, you are also removed from office. I think it's a very fundamental, very basic, very logical and supportable amendment to the charter. I also have an amendment right now that requires council to conduct some oversight when an elected official has done some type of wrongdoing. And I imagine this is going to be severely amended as we move forward, and perhaps not even pushed by this body. But there is, I think, a real appetite amongst the public to have investigations of elected figures when they've done something wrong. A lot of times, or rather I should say, the council oftentimes has these powers already in their toolbox, but my proposal for this amendment seeks to force their hand and have them acknowledge this wrongdoing and conduct investigations. I don't want to speak too much, but there is a proposal underway that's being evaluated and worked on and tinkered with by Kate. That is really exciting, and it's related to, may I speak about it just very broadly, an ombuds position within Pierce County that would relate to law enforcement oversight. And I think those types of accountability measures are ones that the voters would support. Other changes that we could be considering, the state law did add certain certifications and qualifications. We could codify that within the charter too. And that would allow us to have our own, ecosystem of accountability within Pierce County that is untethered to the state. I think there might be some interesting opportunities to also add language that says the sheriff, for example, has to follow state law and uphold ordinances, and that they have to follow legally binding opinions of the prosecuting attorney. So I have 30 seconds left. I'm going to run through the rest. With regards to democracy, that element of the question, I don't have any changes per se. I think our whole commission is an exercise in democracy. But I do want to state that while I'm a believer in strong executives and muscular councils, a lot of the changes that are being considered right now, including appointment of the sheriff, really focuses some authorities and powers on the executive. And there's no guarantee that that executive in the future will be a liberal, will be a progressive, will be a Democrat. So as we provide new tools for elected officials, we need to be very clear about what we're trying to accomplish and the risk of doing that, because those tools may be used in ways that we do not like after we give it to them. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Troy. My name is George Conzuelo. I represent District 6, Position 1, so that includes Lakewood, DuPont, Steilacoom, JBLM, part of Parkland, McNeil, Keshewan, and one other island. Anderson, thank you very much. Anderson Island. So I am lucky to have a little bit more of a lighthearted question, including community engagement. We've had some really good conversations and some really powerful conversations so far on the panel. So for my question, I have... so I'm just going to break them up because it's a three-parter. What types of testimony or feedback or proposals are most useful to the commissioners? I would say your lived experience and your personal stories are super important. Some other members of the commission have mentioned that feelings are not important, that stories don't push policy, and I think the way that you live your life and are impacted by the policies that Pierce County implements is the whole point of the Charter Commission. And so you coming forward, whether it is in person, like was mentioned at our weekly Monday meetings, in person or on Zoom, or some other options that I will be talking about later, or written public comment is also really great. Every one of the commissioners gets that in our email, and it's put in our packets, so everyone is able to see kind of the different perspectives from all districts. And so, yeah, by bringing yourself forward, you are sharing your voice, you are making your voice heard, and we don't have to wait until November till the vote to have that be put forward. And so there's been a lot of public engagement, but I will mention that it kind of has been on the opposition side. I think we are just as powerful to mobilize our people. We may think that we're in a progressive county, and we are, but we have to keep with it to stay a progressive county. So please, if you can, I know we're in District 4, and it's a very progressive area, but there are wide ranges of the county that we don't often think about. So if you have any friends, family, community members out there, please encourage them to share their voice. I know it can be difficult sometimes because of the general consensus out there, but your voice is important and it should be heard, and we would love to hear it. And for proposals, the public can propose amendments to the charter. We've had a handful. I don't think we've had any from our side. Oh, actually, I lied. We have had some. So really, if you are passionate about something within the charter, within the 10 articles, 9 articles, 10 articles within the charter, please reach out to your local commissioner. District 4, we have them on here. But like I said, you can go to our Pierce County website and you can see, you can add your address and see where you are in Pierce County, how to reach out to us, and you can reach out to all 3 of your commissioners or just one specific, and ask them how to start the process. We have a whole team behind us, including a legal team, that will help kind of draft that if it gets picked up by your commissioner or a different commissioner, to get drafted and refined to fit within the scope of what we can do, because that is also a big thing. There are some things we cannot do as long as we're within the Washington Constitution and kind of funneling down on that. It should be okay, but there's just some things that we can't touch, or so that will be up to the legal team to let us know what we can and can't do. So that's how I would suggest to get a little bit more involved with the actual proposal process. I will mention that voter fatigue is a big thing, so we have some big topics to talk about for these next until June. So if there's something that you have on your mind, definitely do reach out to us. But I know there's going to be a lot of things on the ballot, and it might not go through, but please, still be part of the civic process. And then the next question is, are commissioners seeking policy expertise, community impact stories, or political viability feedback? I would say the first 2, again, community impact stories are super important. Policy expertise is really great too. A lot of the folks who are opposing the amendments are, blatantly seeing information, facts and figures, and they're not accepting it because that's apparently what their constituents want, and they don't care about what reality we live in. And so I'd say if you have any folks in there to please come forward, and I've not seen the 30 seconds, so, but yeah, absolutely, please. You are just as much as part of the process as we are, and we can't do this work without you. So thank you so much for letting us be here.
Good evening. Nice to see everyone. I'm Kate Ginn from District 4, and I come to this work as a social worker working in child welfare. My driving force is to ensure that programs and policies are informed and changed by the people that are most impacted by them. Having done hundreds of home visits with families, I just became really passionate about seeing how things weren't working in the system and how do we elevate those lived experiences and individual stories to change the system and make things better for people. And I also serve on the Pierce County Birth to 25 Advisory Board and the City of Tacoma Equity and Contracting Advisory Committee. It's been such a privilege to be part of this Charter Review Commission. I think it is just amazing to have an intentional process every 10 years, that although charter amendments can occur through the county council, asking for them to be placed on a ballot, we are able as ordinary citizens to also engage in this process every 10 years, and we've had many more charter amendments happen on the charter through this process than from those initiated by county council. So my question was, to wrap us up, what are the most significant challenges the commission faces? Given the current state of extensive misinformation and disinformation, how will the commission communicate accurate information to the public to support recommended amendments? I feel like the first couple of months was really just trying to let people know what the Charter Review Commission does, because there was already a lot of misinformation that we were going to change something. So the biggest one to promote has been, we're putting things on the ballot, and voters, every charter amendment is decided by voters, right? So that's been one we've been promoting. It's really wild at the beginning of the Charter Review Commission. No one really tells you what to do, right? We were fortunate to have two commissioners who were there 10 years ago, so they could really help guide and set things up. But really, the commission convenes the commission. We've figured out the rules of procedure. We don't have a manual or a guide to help us. So I'm really interested in actually kind of codifying some of that and helping with the onboarding of the next commission. We just had a presentation from the Pierce County Auditor's Office that was incredibly helpful and maybe should be moved up in the process. But that's not what we're here to talk about. One amendment that I have put forward just this week is around the open and competitive hiring processes for appointed roles and department heads. This is something I feel like it's important to be on the ballot along with any changes in election versus appointment, so that people understand what appointment means. It does not mean you choose your friend to run a department. It means you have an open and competitive hiring process with the county's personnel system, and you draw the widest possible pool of competitive applicants. And that's really one of my main priorities in looking at this charter, is to ensure that we as citizens of Pierce County are getting the best possible people in those positions. And to me, some positions, one of the main roles of the position is representing a group of people in an area and making policy, and those need to be elected positions. And other positions maybe more lean towards having to fulfill a job and to be skilled in certain areas. We do not currently have any good way to insert qualifications for elected positions. We do for appointed positions. Elections, you file during filing week, you say, yes, I meet the qualifications, you sign something, and you're on the ballot, right? So I think certain positions we do need to look at if there's certain qualifications that are necessary for those. And that's kind of been the standpoint I've been coming from. Once we get things on the ballot, there will be for and against committees to also write up statements for and against each proposal, just like there are other things on the ballot. Many of us will likely participate in that process as well. And the work doesn't end, part of the work ends in June, but I think in addition to writing those for and against statements, we're gonna continue to see the process through in terms of ensuring people understand what's on their ballot, campaigning for certain amendments, and really continuing this work, I think, up until November, so that community feels confident when they get their ballot in how to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists, and the night is not over for you yet. Ellen has a short announcement to make, and then we'll go on to audience questions.
Thank you, everyone. This is wonderful. Just while we're getting ready for audience Q&A, We're going to pass baskets in the audience. If you feel up to giving a little bit of a donation for Indivisible Tacoma, that would be great. Only if you're comfortable doing it, it helps with our expenses, so that'll be going on. And we're getting ready for Q&A now.
So I just want to mention a few ground rules. We really encourage some questions from the audience, but I do want to really emphasize, based on our experience here and time constraints, and you all, eventually want to go home, we want you to ask as concise a question as possible, and we want it to be a question. Some of you may have comments, you may have really important stories to tell, but this isn't the place to do that. We really want you to ask questions of the commissioners. If there's a particular commissioner you want to answer, then just direct your question to that person. If there's a general question you're asking, then I'm going to say to you, commissioners, just one or two of you chime in. Everybody doesn't have to answer. That would be great, just so we can move things along. If you do start commenting or you sort of go off topic and you're not asking a question, I am going to, I know I look small, but you'd be surprised, I am going to stop you and let somebody else ask a question. So the time for public comment is at their meeting on Monday, but it's a time for a question. So I think without further ado, if anybody has any questions they want to ask, if you want to line up at the microphone here, and if you're nervous about it, I'll come up with one to ask first.
My name's Kathy Orlando, and I live in District 7. So, if I may, I have two questions. I have one, you can, if we don't take too long, it's okay. For Justin, it's two subjects. Justin, you mentioned the idea of expanding the county council. What would be the steps that would need to take place to accomplish that?
So the proposal before us, which is brought by the public, by the way, it's one of the, I think there's 4 or 5 amendments that the public have brought, basically says 60 days after the November election, it would be, the redistricting process would be initiated. The redistricting process is enumerated here in the charter, which is 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans are appointed by the county council. Those 4 people pick a chair, the 5 move forward, and we would need to be done by filing week. The problem with this proposal, if Linda Farmer was in here, she would be freaking out because she would have to redo precinct lines, and there's just no time in this proposal to do that. What I would offer is, if it's really important that we expand the county council, I would propose that we send this as a thought process to the council, which we can send, if we don't put something on the ballot, but we can send ideas to the council for consideration, that we basically say something like, by August of 2030, the county council shall conduct public input and what the cost would be to expand the county council to 9 would be the next theoretical number. What does that cost? And if it's something that is important, you hear a lot about it, then send it to the voters for that general election 2030 for the already, that's going to happen no matter what, redistricting committee that would be put into place in 2031 for the general election of the new council members after that. I also I don't think it's helpful for us to redistrict mid-century or mid-decade, and then when we already are going to do it it's 2026, folks. Like, by the time this gets passed, it'll be 2027. We were already just a few years away from having to redistrict again. So that would be the thought process. This amendment needs to get cleaned up quite a bit if it's going to keep going to make it feasible. And we want to make sure we work with our stakeholders who run elections and make sure they can actually implement it. So hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you. Troy, I think you were the one who mentioned additional to gross misdemeanors. Okay, so my question is, I wrote it. Would that be from the time that this takes place on, or would people be able to go back and file complaints on an elected charges from the past?
It would be, if I'm understanding your question correctly, it would be for a sitting elected individual who is being charged with a crime during that tenure, during that period of office. Okay. And does that answer the question?
So if I did something bad when I was on the school board and then I ran for election for another position for the county council, the school board issue wouldn't be in play?
I think my amendment intends for when those charges are filed. If the charges are filed while you're in office, then you would be subject to that paid suspension for the gross misdemeanor charge. Yeah.
For SCOTUS, it would make sense to expand because there's 13 federal circuits and there's only 9 judges. We have 7 legislative districts in Pierce County. What would be the point of expanding the council? It doesn't make any sense. It should be 1 per legislative district. That's my question.
Well, it would be expanding the districts as well, right? So first off, when the U.S. Constitution was written, one of the things that was considered very seriously but not ratified was setting Congress proportional to the population at a size actually smaller than what we're talking about. And the U.S. political spectrum would be a fundamentally different thing today if that had been done, right? There's also been different periods throughout U.S. history where bodies have been expanded dramatically to be more representative. It's happened a number of times. And one way to think about this is when we passed the county charter in 1980, there were about 69,000 constituents per council member. Right now, as my colleague Justin mentioned, there's like 137,000. So that means that there's half the representation, and to his point earlier, representation isn't the only question, but I think one way to think about this is council members have to work twice as hard to get votes. They have to spend a bunch more money to get votes. It makes certain people much more likely to win. It distracts council members from doing the work of governing. And most importantly for me, I come out of my background, I didn't say this earlier, but I come out of a long background of organizing our diverse working class and being with workers in motion as they're trying to change society. And I think that almost everything we take for granted in society has been achieved through working class people fighting to make it better. We have a very hard time with working class folks running for and winning office when we have the levels of proportion that we have now. And expanding the county council is a dramatic and important way to make it so folks like you, and frankly, there's a lot of retirees here that probably have a little bit more disposable income, but folks from diverse backgrounds, younger people, folks that are typically not represented to run. And generally speaking, those people are very much in line with the values of the people in this room. I would like to think that people are, right? So there's some stuff to work through with the proposal. I thought it was very thoughtfully done and brought forth by a very smart constituent in District 4, and that's why I supported it. I understand there will be significant discussion and potential amendments. And 2 things that I think are really, really important when we think about with this are, like, our county budget is massive. Even expanding to 11 seats, which is the number that would be with the dynamic representation included, the county council expansion and the staff expansion would be 0.03%. Like, that's the number we're talking about, and that's the price of doing democracy. This is a process that happens every 10 years. We have not changed that proportionality for our representation since 1980. There's been a couple of efforts to do it, or a couple almost getting there. And if we don't do it now or soon, to my colleague's point, we're getting locked in for longer and longer processes. So I'm hopeful that I would say we should not kick it to the council to do through ordinance. I feel very strongly that it should be done for the charter because that is the guiding document for how we do democracy in our county. But maybe we have to amend it. Maybe we have to change it in a way that makes it more effective for the full body and for the electorate. That's how democracy works. We're working through the process. So I hope that answers your question, and I just think it's very important. Thank you.
I don't know what's in the charter. Is there, sometimes city councils and county councils will give developers money or a deal on their taxes to do things. is it in the charter what binds them? I mean, are there directions in the charter for how they award a tax break? I'm specifically thinking about some property in the county that has old trees that a person's gonna sell because they have to pay property taxes. And is there some way to compensate that person to not cut down the trees and sell the property? I mean, is our charter set up anywhere that takes the actual environment into consideration when doing deals?
The answer is no, not in the charter, just to be simple. But there's nothing to say that we can't come up with an amendment as long as it was within our legal purview and the county could do it to establish something like you said through development rights. I'm just saying we can probably establish something in here directing the county council that they shall not do these things, or the executive and these permits and whatnot. So there is a way to probably do that through that part. So there's stuff in here about franchise agreements, for example, and what they're allowed to do in a franchise, which is like utilities is a franchise. So there are examples in here where we as a charter have restricted the powers of the council and executive on things like that. For example, the franchise amendment that's in here already. Yeah. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I love trees too. I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. So, fought very hard when I was a neighborhood councilman.
So the follow-up question would be, your jurisdiction covers zoning, is that correct? As commissioners? No. Who is in charge of county zoning? The council. Is there any input coming from the commission to add or prohibit an amendment?
An amendment for what?
An amendment to prevent a detention center from being constructed within the county of Pierce.
Well, I'll pass it to Jake after this, but I know that the county council is currently working on moratorium, thank you, I forgot the word, a moratorium on that to have some time to see how that all is going to put into play. I currently serve on the Commission for Refugee and Immigrant Affairs for Pierce County, and I served on the Tacoma Commission for Immigrant and Refugee Affairs back when I was 17. The Northwest Detention Center has been a long-standing stain in Tacoma, in my opinion, and I know that folks out in unincorporated areas also don't want that. For your question on infrastructure and stuff like that, that's been a big conversation on how development will impact those areas without having a plan for urban development. And so I think we have a 6-month moratorium. It could be pushed to a year-long moratorium to have those questions answered. I think having council really double down and get the details on that is really important. I would hope for there to not be any possibility of another detention center to be built in Pierce County. But as of right now, I don't think we have anything. I'll pass it on to Jake.
So I'm going to reiterate what George said, that the county council is going to do something very similar by ordinance. And if you would like to offer public comment for that, it'll be next Tuesday. I have been working on an amendment to do just that. And the question we're asking is, are we going to enshrine it in the county charter? Is there ever going to be a possibility that this county is going to want a for-profit prison in it? Right? And that's the reason we put it in the charter and not rely on an ordinance by the council to do it, right? There's also some legal questions about, so the state did something.
I just want to add
Sure. So I've been working with a couple of organizations, and the state tried to do something similar, and there was a legal challenge because the county and the state cannot regulate the federal government, and this has been initiatives like this have been interpreted to regulate the federal government because we're kind of targeting one thing. So there is some legal challenge, so I'm fine-tuning my language to see if maybe we can withstand a lawsuit.
I just wanted to add, a really good partner to work on some of this would be with the nurses union, because I know that they are dealing with Geo Group and they're having a lot of they're witnessing a lot of atrocious activities coming out of there, trying to provide service to the people that are there, being, it's appalling. My friend Jared, who is one of their political directors, he's also in the 25th LD, and the vice chair of the Pierce County Democrats, actually. He's been working on this issue. He would be a really good person to talk to about what they've been experiencing, but I think that they would be very good partners in crafting something around this, using basically agreements, like, what kind of agreements we have with this private company where the county is working with them. So I don't know, there's a lot of red tape to jump through and a lot of things to figure out from a legal perspective, but it's definitely, there can be guardrails that could be put in place. And I think working with folks that know the realities and have the connections to the people most affected to it are probably the best route to work on that plan. So that's it.
I just want to add really quick. No, you're great. That was amazing. So I actually put forth an amendment to block the county collaborating with ICE and immigration enforcement. And that sounds like it's adjacent, but one of the issues that's been coming up in other municipalities and jurisdictions around the country is both supremacy and if there's anything constitutionally bound that allows it. And there's some organizations like Local Progress, which is an organization nationally that works with local elected leaders across the country, that have made recommendations that if charters and constitutions have that language in it, it makes it easier to enforce the other part of the work around kind of blocking contracts, either also under charter or with ordinance. So I think the more we can do to create a framework that allows, if it doesn't restrict directly, that allows the county to do a better job of doing it through ordinance without it getting litigation is very helpful too.
We all have to follow the Constitution, the law of the state and whatnot. My one point I want to make sure we understand, and this isn't about the merits of that at all, I certainly believe in that, but our charter only impacts Pierce County government, and therefore if we had a zoning sort of item in here, it would only be about unincorporated county land. There's nothing to stop, I'm just going to pick on a city, just for fun. There's nothing to stop the city of South Prairie that if they wanted to do a detention center in the city of South Prairie. So I just want to make sure we know that. There's a lot of confusion of the public that comes in comments, and it's because this only happens every 10 years. We can only impact county government things. So not city of Tacoma stuff and things like that, whether it's elected officials or zoning from there. Just want to make sure we had that baseline understanding.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I live in an area of Spanaway that has, it needs sidewalks, okay? It's very difficult for me in my chair to get around without a sidewalk. And I'm frankly appalled in this day and age when accessibility is so, is so relevant that there are places where you can't get sidewalks. I'd like to know who I address about that.
So I live in the Summit Waller area, which is unincorporated Pierce County, and the 25th LD legislative district has a lot of unincorporated Pierce County and South Hill. It's very similar to Spanaway. There is no infrastructure for people. We have to solve some real problems around transportation in some spaces, like public transportation to our rural areas. A million years ago, I don't know when, people voted it down in certain communities, and that it's a problem. So I think that that's an accessibility issue, like sidewalks for disabled folks, it should be a very high priority. It would be really nice to accomplish some of these things if we weren't constantly having to deal with the sheriff issue. That has really been an obstacle for us for getting really good government stuff done, right? Like we can't really get, and how we would approach that, I would love to talk with you afterwards, and maybe we can have a conversation and get some other commissioners on board to look at what we can do. I can't guarantee you exactly, but since you're bringing it up, it's something that our constituents out in the 5th and out in the 25th have definitely been grappling with. So, yeah.
To get to your question, is it within the charter purview to do something about ADA accessibility. There definitely, there's a charter amendment in here that talks about the county will work on veteran affairs, right? And it's not very detailed, it's like a tiny sentence. But, some of this can be done, you could come up with an amendment directing, the comprehensive plan shall prioritize, what we call the triangle of mobility, right? So, walking, biking, transit, cars. You could come up with that stuff, but then it's about how does it get funded? And, I grew up where Jenn is from. I grew up off of Canyon Road in 512. I'm # born and raised in UPC, unincorporated Pierce County. I totally get the sidewalk thing, somebody that works in public transit. The problem that we would have about the charter with this is the funding behind it. So if you mandate it and you don't have other funding behind it, then what is it going to take away somewhere else to do that? This is a really great question for advocating for incorporating. We have a lot of places in Pierce County that have grown so much that they really need to start thinking about becoming their own jurisdiction or joining another. South Hill, for example, there's 67,000 people that live in unincorporated South Hill. They would be the second largest city if they incorporated as themselves. But it's up to the county and utilizing the county resources to manage that. Whereas if it incorporated, they would have a lot more tax-based opportunities to fund government, that good government, including transportation benefit district funding that can prioritize that as well. So Troy and I, like land use people, we could go on and on about this,
So we're right at 8:30, which is exactly when the meeting is scheduled to adjourn. So I don't see anybody else jumping up to ask a question. What I do want to do is thank our wonderful commissioners. And I did hear a couple of them say they'd stick around. They may or may not be glad that they said that, but hopefully they'll stick around and chat with some of you if you're interested in talking to them and asking some questions and following up. Thank you so much.